or just if you do allow them in, just make sure that you're able to get their information. So don't let them in until you're able to contact them. All right. All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. I want to thank everybody for coming. We're going to go ahead and start up. All meetings are to be open and closed promptly, according to the Circle 7, and love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. If you are able to, please rise and face the east. All right. Yeah, if you're able to, please rise and face the east for the Moorish American prayer. All right. Just face the east. Put your feet at a 45-degree angle. Just have your heels together like in a V shape. Stand straight up. Put your hands up. Hold 2 fingers up on the right, 5 fingers up on the left, and repeat after me. Allah.
Allah.
Father of the universe.
Father of the universe.
Father of love.
Father of love.
Truth.
Truth.
Peace.
Peace.
Freedom.
Freedom.
And justice.
And justice.
Allah is my protector.
Allah is my protector.
My guide.
My God.
And my salvation.
And my salvation.
By night and by day.
By night and by day.
Through his holy prophet.
Through his holy prophet.
Drew Ali. Amen.
Amen.
Islam.
Islam.
Good job, bro.
All right, I want to announce that the meeting is now open. First and foremost, we always rise and give the highest praise to the Most High, the Father of the universe, Allah. We also give honors to our divine prophet, Noble Drew Ali, for bringing us our divine creed and nationality. We also give honors to the forerunner to the prophet, and that's Brother Marcus Mosiah Garvey. In addition to that, we also give honors to all the 8-up sheiks and all the faithful Moors that make up the grand body of the Moorish Divine and National Movement. We give honors to the first appointed Supreme Grand Sheikh by the Prophet, and that's Brother E. Millie Ill. We also give honors to our brother who's on the call with us right now, current Supreme Grand Sheikh, Brother K. Dandridgel.
Oh, the Supreme Grand Sheikh is on here.
Islam. All right. And we also give honors to the Grand Council of the Moorish Science Temple of America, and honors to all the ills and bays out there. Islam, Islamism. Now, Brother Jackson Bey, will you please read the Divine Constitution and bylaws?
Islam, I rise giving praise to Allah and honors to his prophet, Drew Ali. Salvation, Allah, unity. The Moorish Science Temple of America. The Divine Constitution and bylaws. Act 1. The Grand Sheikh and the chairman of the Moorish Science Temple of America is empowered to make law and enforce law with the assistance of the Prophet and the grand body of the Moorish Science Temple of America. The assistant Grand Sheikh is to assist the Grand Sheikh in all affairs if he live according to love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, and it is known before the members of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Act 2. All meetings are to be open and closed promptly according to the Circle 7 in love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Friday is our holy day of rest because on a Friday, the first man was formed in flesh, and on a Friday, the first man departed out of flesh and ascended unto his Father God Allah. For that cause, Friday is the holy day for all Muslims all over the world. Act 3, love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice must be proclaimed and practiced by all members of the Moorish Science Temple of America. No member is to put in danger or accuse falsely his brother or sister on any occasion at all that may harm his brother or sister, because Allah is love. Act 4, all members must preserve these holy and divine laws, and all members must obey the laws of the government, because by being a Moorish American, you are part and parcel of the government and must live the life accordingly. Act 5. This organization of the Moorish Science Temple of America is not to cause any confusion or to overthrow the laws of the Constitution of the said government, but to obey hereby. Act 6. With us, all members must proclaim their nationality, and we are teaching our people their nationality and their divine creed that they may know they are part and parcel of this said government, and know that they are not Negroes, colored folks, Black people, or Ethiopians, because these names were given to slaves by slaveholders in 1779 and lasted until 1865 during the time of slavery. But this is a new era of time now, and all men now must proclaim their free national name to be recognized by the government in which they live and the nations of the earth. This is the reason why Allah, the great God of the universe, ordained Noble Jew Ali, the prophet, to redeem his people from their sinful ways. The Moorish Americans are the descendants of the ancient Moabites who inhabited the northwestern and southwestern shores of Africa. Act 7. All members must promptly attend their meetings and become part and parcel of all uplifting acts of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Members must pay their dues and keep in line with all necessities of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Then you are entitled to the name of faithful. Husband, you must support your wife and children. Wife, you must obey your husband and take care of your children and look after the duties of your household. Sons and daughters must obey father and mother and be industrious and become part of the uplifting of fallen humanity. All Moorish Americans must keep their hearts and minds pure with love and their bodies clean with water. This divine covenant is from your holy prophet, Noble Jew Ali, through the guidance of his father God Allah. Noble Jew Ali, founder, Moorish American prayer. Allah, the father of the universe, the father of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Allah is my protector, my guide, and my salvation by night and by day through his holy prophet, Drew Ali. Amen. The Moorish Science Temple of America, Home Office of Noble Drew Ali, Home Office, Chicago, Illinois, USA. Islam, Islam, Islamism. Happy Holy Day, Muslims.
Happy Holy Day.
Islamism.
Happy Holy Day.
Happy Holy Day. Islam.
Islamism. Okay. I see that we just have a few people that are new, just a few. So just letting you know that what we do here, the first thing we do is we go over a lesson from the Holy Koran of the Moorish Science Temple of America. All right. We're on the last chapter, actually, chapter 48. Okay, so we're gonna go over that. Just gonna read it, and then after that, we can build on it. Everybody can bring their portion to it and share any insight or ask any questions about it. And then after that, we're gonna open the floor up to. Well, actually, after that, we're gonna speak on the national agenda that we have for the census. Then we'll open the floor up to questions. All right. So yeah, if you have questions.
You went on mute. Can't hear you.
Mic went out. Islam.
Okay, so I don't know when the mic went out, but was just explaining we do the Quran lessons just for the people who's new to this. And after we read it, we'll go over it, build on it. People can ask questions. And then we're going to discuss the census strategy and our national strategy for the census. And then after that, we'll open the floor to questions just in general. So if you have any questions, just save them to the end. And you can ask, even if they're not related to the topic we're on right now. Okay? Islam?
Islam.
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 All right, Islam. Yeah, we're in chapter 48. That's the end of time and the fulfilling of the prophecies. For the most part, this gives you an explanation of why and what the Prophet Noble Drew Ali did to redeem our salvation, and reconnect us to our legacy. All right, verse 1. The last prophet in these days is Noble Drew Ali, who was prepared divinely in due time by Allah to redeem men from their sinful ways and to warn them of the great wrath which is sure to come upon the earth. All right. John the Baptist was the forerunner of Jesus in those days to warn and stir up the nation and prepare them to receive the divine creed, which was to be taught by Jesus. In these modern days, there came a forerunner who was divinely prepared by the great God Allah, and his name was Marcus Garvey, who did teach and warn the nations of the earth to prepare to meet the coming prophet, who was to bring the true and divine creed of Islam. And his name is Noble Drew Ali, who was prepared and sent to the earth by Allah to teach the old time religion and the everlasting gospel to the sons of man, that every nation shall and must worship under their own vine and fig tree and return to their own and be one with their Father God Allah. Now, the Moorish Science Temple of America is a lawfully chartered and incorporated organization. Any subordinate temple that desires to receive a charter, the Prophet has them to issue to every state throughout the United States, etc., that the world may hear and know the truth, that among the descendants of Africa, there is still much wisdom to be learned in these days for the redemption of the sons of men under love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. We as a clean and pure nation, descended from the inhabitants of Africa, do not desire to amalgamate or marry into the families of the pale-skinned nations of Europe, neither serve the gods of their religion, because our forefathers are the true and divine founders of the first religious creed for the redemption and salvation of mankind on earth. Therefore, we are returning the church and Christianity back to the European nations as it was prepared by their forefathers for their earthly and divine salvation, while we, the Moorish Americans, are returning to Islam, which was founded by our forefathers for our earthly and divine salvation. See verse 9, the covenant of the great God Allah. Honor thy father and thy mother, that thy days may be longer upon the earthland, which the Lord thy God, Allah, hath given thee. Come all ye Asiatic of America and hear the truth about your nationality and birthrights, because you are not Negroes. Learn of your forefathers' ancient and divine creed, that you will learn to love instead of hate. We are trying to uplift fallen humanity. Come and link yourself with the family of nations. We honor all true and divine prophets. Now, just gonna scroll back up to the top. The last prophet in these days, Noble Drew Ali, who was prepared divinely in due time by Allah to redeem men from their sinful ways. What is our sinful ways? Not honoring our forefathers, right? What do we have in key 42? Key 42 of the Quran questionnaire. Anybody know that one? All right, just hang on. I'm gonna pull it up for you.
I got it. You want me to read it?
Sure.
Islam 42. What is the covenant of the great God Allah? Honor thy father and thy mother, that thy days may be long upon the earthland which the Lord thy God Allah hath given thee.
Islam. All right. So he's reconnecting us, the fulfilling of the prophecies. All right. He's letting us know that by honoring the covenant, right, which in verse 7, it says, therefore, we are returning the church and Christianity back to the European nations as it was prepared by their forefathers for their earthly salvation, right? So part of honoring the covenant is returning to our divine creed, right? And this is huge because especially now where you have the information about, I guess you could say about us being Moors, or, you know, people thinking that maybe there's something to this Moorish nationality thing. The information's out there, right? There's nothing anybody can do about it. They can't hide it no more. So it's all over the internet. It's in the streets, and people are hearing it from all different directions. You got people saying, well, you don't have to be a Muslim, you know, because they don't even know really what Islam means. You know, like when you really get down to it, the root of Islam means peace, and Islamism is making, you know, being at peace and oneness with the universal way of life, right? You know, you understand that there's a creator, Allah. Okay, so, you know, people don't really understand that. So they might be turned off by Islam, and they don't even realize that that's a huge part of this, right? This divine covenant that we have with the creator. You have to return. You can't continue to like disregard that whole part, right? That's the first verse in there, is that, you know, he was divinely prepared by Allah to redeem men from their sinful ways. All right. And a big part of that was not honoring our forefathers, right? We have to return to the divine creed. So, you know, skipping down to verse 7, but, you know, we're returning Christianity and the church back to the European nations as it was prepared by their forefathers for their earthly salvation, right? While we, the Moorish Americans, are returning to Islam, which was founded by our forefathers for our earthly and divine salvation. Divine meaning of, from, or like God, or godly origin, right? Just in that, you know, when you look at Christianity, Christianity teaches you of, well, they teach that man was born in sin, right? That's a big tenet, actually, of Christianity across the board, regardless of denominations. The word skips my mind right now. I think it was first sin, or original sin. Okay, so that's a big tenet of Christianity, that man, you know, and that's not gender specific, was just born in sin. Okay, but what do we know as Muslims? Matter of fact, what did the Prophet Noble Drew Ali say about Islam? Right, and I'll read that for you real quick, because that's tied into this. All right. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but I'm just going to read this. I want you to hear a certain part. Islam is a very simple faith. It requires man to recognize his duties toward God Allah, his creator, and his fellow creatures. It teaches the supreme duty of living at peace with one's surroundings. It is preeminently the religion of peace. The very name Islam means peace. The goal of a man's life, according to Islam, is peace with everything. Peace with Allah and peace with man. All right, and I'm actually going to skip the second paragraph, and because I want you to hear this part. The object of man's life, according to Islam, is its complete unfoldment. Islam teaches that man is born with unlimited capacities for progress. This is actually from the person in the chat that asked. This is in a book called Moorish Literature. All right, and that's another book that we have. Moorish Literature is a compilation of different writings that were published in the Moorish Guide during the Prophet's time. All right, we actually have some writings in here from the first appointed Supreme Grand Sheikh by the Prophet. That's Brother Emili Il. So it's very important, because you actually have some things in here that are law. All right, like there's some things in here that the Prophet demanded to be read, you know, at every meeting, every gathering of Moors, right? Because it's law. All right, so what I'm reading, you know, it's important for us to understand this, because this isn't like just my ideas. These are coming from the Prophet. Okay, so let me go back to that. That actually what I'm reading is called What is Islam? All right, so going back to that, Islam teaches that man is born with unlimited capacities for progress. Islam does not support the idea that man is born in sin. It teaches that everyone has within him the seed of perfect development, and it rests solely with himself to make or mar his fortune. Okay? All right, so Islam does not teach that man is born in sin. That's the opposite of what Christianity teaches.
Islam.
Islam.
No, I was just going to add that I love that as Muslims, we are not born in sin. We were born with the ultimate capacity for goodness. That's amazing, because we have the seed of perfection, the perfect development within us. Islam, yeah.
And before I yield the floor, I wanted to share why, you know, like that's, I mean, you can already start to see why it's important to get out of that, even just that mindset that is involved with Christianity. You have to return to Islam, but, you know, it's really important to get out of that. And there's a lot of reasons why. One thing that we always share here in the Quran of Mecca, In Surah 2, Ayat 30, when Allah was speaking to the angels about man, about his creation, it says, behold, thy Lord said to the angels, I will create a vice regent on earth. They said, wilt thou place therein one who will make mischief therein and shed blood, whilst we do celebrate thy praises and glorify thy name? He said, I know what ye know not. So he's having a conversation with the angels about this creation man that's on earth. And they're like, why are you making him the vice regent on earth? Right? Because the vice regent is a person exercising delegated power on behalf of a sovereign or ruler, a person regarded as an earthly representative of God. Okay, and then it's also in that one of the definitions it says, especially the Pope. Okay, so from a Christian perspective, the vice regent of God is the Pope. The Pope just recently vacated his title as vicer of Christ. All right. So from Islam, as Muslims, all of us, all right, all Muslims are vice regents of God on earth. And the angels were asking, like, why would you do that? You know, man's going to be causing all this trouble. And Allah's just like, I know what you know not, you know? So, you know, and I share that because that's right there in this. And this is a part of our, you know, our heritage. This is our divine creed. This is our divine covenant with Allah. But if you're unaware of that, you know what I'm saying, you can't tap into that. You have to return to Islam and able to be able to, you know, to receive the rewards. And also, since we're in chapter 48, to escape the judgment that is on now, which is something that we can see. We know that we're in the end times, and we know that the end times doesn't mean the end for us. It's the end for, you know, the world that we're in, or the current power structure, right? But there's a wrath, a great wrath, which is sure to come upon the earth. So the only way out of it is to return, you know, to honor your forefathers, right? And part of that, a huge part of that, is returning to your divine creed. Okay, so we can't skip over that. And, you know, a lot of things have been done, you know, to get us away from that. But, you know, at this point in time, you know, it's now self-evident, you know, that Allah's our creator, and we have to return to this. And by returning to Islam, you know, on one end, this is something that is known and recognized worldwide, right? And also, this is something that connects you to your greatness, to you in a civilized state. One of the things that was done, you know, by the European, which also, I guess, just reverting back to the Quran questionnaire, right? One of the things that was done to kind of to get you away from your divine creed, your true nature or your heritage, you have to look at Islam. Hang on, I think we have a question. Okay, you have to look at what was done. All right, and back to the Quran questionnaire, question 92. It says, what title does Satan give to himself? Hang on a second. All right. So what title does Satan give to himself? God. All right. And then question 93. Will you define the word white? White means purity. Purity means God. And God means the ruler of the land. Okay. So on one end, this is, you know, this is spiritual. This is metaphysical, talking about the lower and higher self. But on another end, it's just plain as day. You can see what this is saying. Who named themselves God? All right. And they define, you know, the word that they created for you. All right. Which is, you can see in the previous question, and question 90, can a man be Negro, black, colored, or Ethiopian? Right. So the European basically named himself God. All right. And as it says, going back to chapter 48, we are returning Christianity back to the European because it was prepared by their forefathers for their earthly salvation. Okay, going back to this, all right. Did the Europeans create Christianity? No, but it says it was prepared by their forefathers for their earthly salvation. So while it wasn't created by them, you had things that took place like the Council of Nicaea, right? Which you actually had several instances that took place where they went through the different books, you know, that make up the Bible that we have now, chose what was going to be in there, what wasn't going to be in it, what fit them, what didn't fit them. You even had like recent changes, like the, I don't know if anyone's ever heard of the Geneva Bible, right? But in the Geneva Bible, they actually describe our people in there as Moors, okay? They got rid of that. They got rid of that. Okay, so you won't see more anywhere in like the King James Bible or, you know, any new translations of the Bible, right? Why? Because they were formulating something. Okay, so even the Christianity that they gave to us, or the bits and pieces that they gave to us, you know, is what they saw fit for their creation. What was their creation? The Negro, you know, and like literally the Negro, you know, which is, this is going to sound really, you know, politically incorrect, but if you really look at what the Negro is, or what it was, you know, by their definition, it's something that was pretty much the missing link. All right. Has anybody ever seen that book, The Negro, Beast, or in the Image of God? There's some shocking stuff in there. Okay. I mean, I could just show you some pictures just so you can get an idea of what I'm talking about. Now, these are things that can't, like, nobody can come out in the open and say these things now, because it's just going to look extremely, you know, extremely racist, ignorant, offensive, you know, but this stuff really happened and it can't be hidden, or, you know, they can't deny it. But let me see if I can get a better image for you. Okay, here, hang on. All right. So the reason I'm sharing this book, this is one of many books that went on, as you can see in this little description, using biblical and scientific facts to try to, like it says, say that the Negro is not an offspring of the Adamic family, right? But I just wanted to show you some of these images just so that you can see, like, not making this up, okay? So this picture, you know, you see the two Europeans with the little, they're gonna say Negro child, right? Could that Negro child be the child of pure Adamic parents? If the Negro is an offspring of Adam and Eve, then it is possible, right? And the reason they're saying this is because they're making the case for how the Negro is the missing link, right? Okay, but this is actually, this ties into why, you know, why you have to get rid of that, and also ties into the classification that they still put on us, even though it's done today in a less overt way. They can't come out outright and say stuff like this. But if you see this is horrible, right? Showing like basically the light, you know, coming down to the Europeans, and you got the Negro there in the dark, right? The creation of man. Okay. And so you actually see books like this in law libraries too, all over the world. All right. And so, you know, things like this were out right in the 1700s, 1800s. Now it's got to be more slick. Okay. But this is what's tied into anyone who is going under the labels that the European created for them, anyone that's going under the religion that the European created for you. It doesn't matter how people try to change it up. It doesn't matter really what people say. This is still, even to this day, this is what it's implying. All right. And there's no salvation for you. There's no hope for you. You can only go so far, right? Still deluding to these labels. And this is also why the prophet is saying this is how you can avoid the great wrath. You have to leave those alone. All right, hang on one second. I think somebody's got their hand raised. Okay. All right. So let's see. All right. Does anyone have any questions though before we continue?
Islam. First and foremost, I rise to praise Allah, the Father of the universe. I rise to give honors to His Prophet Noble Drew Ali, and honors to all you Moors in attendance. Islam. I just want to double back to the top and kind of break down some of the keys that the Prophet put into this chapter, Islam. So I'm just going to start at the top. The last prophet in these days and time was Noble Drew Ali. So what do we know about time as Moorish American Muslims? We know that time is measured by cycles. Like, have you ever heard the sayings, what comes around goes around? That's referring to the cycles, because cycles go round, Islam. If we pay attention, we could catch the cycles as they go around. And Noble Drew Ali did just that. And that's how he was divinely prepared. Islam.
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 Where it says, redeem men from their sinful ways. Again, I like to say, what is the sinful ways of man? And it was not honoring the forefathers, not honoring our forefathers and foremothers, and straying after the gods of Europe that got us to where we are right now. So what is the Great Wrath? The Great Wrath is pretty much mental and physical slavery, what our people's been going through for centuries on our own land. Verse 2, John was a forerunner for Jesus. Marcus Garvey was a forerunner for the prophet because he paved the way for purity in this day and time. If anybody don't know what forerunner means, it means someone who came before. And every prophet has a forerunner, someone who just came to kind of get the people ready to receive this information. Verse 3, why is Noble Drew Ali our prophet? Because he brought us the true and divine creed of Islam. He taught us the old time religion and the everlasting gospel. What does that mean? That means it's true all the time. That's what everlasting means. The gospel does not change. And every nation shall and must worship under their own.
Islam.
This is the part that frees nations. Every nation is built on this kind of system, this creed. Verse 4, the MSTA is lawfully chartered and incorporated organization. It's not separated from the USA. So Noble Drew Ali is keeping us under the protections and the perks of being citizens of the USA. Do you know how many people in other countries wish they could have that? As well as giving us
Islam, sis. Can I add to that?
Islam.
Islam. So yeah, the Prophet restored our nationality and birthrights, including our birthrights as citizens of the USA. All right. We're freeborn inhabitants of America. And you know, the issue or the problem, you know, was that as I guess you could say as Negroes or whatever label, you know, that alludes to basically the property, we're not truly citizens. We don't really have those rights and privileges. And so I understand the frustration that people have with things, but you know, actually as citizens, we have the power, you know, to control our reality and to, you know, to empower ourselves, you know, within this structure. So we have everything we needed. So the Prophet was restoring that. He was returning that to us. All right, so
Islam.
there shouldn't be any confusion about that.
Can I get you to also, because a lot of people get confused where it says we're lawfully chartered and incorporated, because the MSTA Divine National Movement is not a 501(c)(3) Islam.
So it's a religious corporation, all right, which basically is just announcing, how they intend to move, or how, whatever group it is, or whatever body it is. This is you announcing within the state that you're in how you intend to organize and move. So it was established in Illinois under Heard's Revised Statute. And the way that it was set up, though, as a religious corporation, when you look at Heard's Revised Statute, it's a religious society / body politic. Okay, it could have just been a religion, but with all of the different things that the Moorish Science Temple of America entailed, which included, coming in, getting reconnected to your divine creed, learning about your nationality, moving as a unit. The Prophet actually, moved around the country, but also internationally, going to the Pan American Conference, representing us as a head of state, being recognized internationally, organizing, having thousands of people, over 100,000 members, in a short amount of time, having a self-sustaining economy, doing these other things, pushed it into that body politic status where this is actually a nation. It's not just a, just a religion. It's a body politic. And if you look at the definition for body politic, you will see that a body politic is basically a nation state, a self-governing nation state. All right. So it's, actually, it entails a lot more than many people realize. All right. And that's because of how it was established, and also how the Prophet moved, how, what was actually done, in a short period of time to announce it to the world.
Islamism. Verse 5, the world may hear and know the truth that we are also the descendants of Africa, and the wisdom that we have is knowing who we are, will allow redemption under love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice for our sons of man. So what does redemption mean? I mean, when I looked it up, I got to atone a fault or mistake or rescue from sin, Islam. So, I mean, that right there lets us know that in this chapter, Noble Drew Ali laid it out to show and help you to understand what he exactly did to create this nation. Verse 6, because we are the first way of life, we will cleanse and purify our nation as descendants from the inhabitants of Africa. Because a lot of people, like a lot of the Afrocentric core people here in the city of Columbus that we talk to, when we tell them that we're Moorish American Muslims, and and we explain the Moorish Empire in America, they automatically get kind of angry because they want to be from Africa. And they
Can I pause you right there and add something to that? Okay, Islam.
Yes.
All right. We're not disconnecting ourselves from Africa. All right. In many ways, from our perspective, we are already in Africa. Why? Within
Islam.
Quran, okay.
Islam.
So within our Quran, in the previous chapter 47, when it's going over the dominions, of our ancestors, it's including North, South, Central America, and the Atlantis Islands, which is basically the Caribbean. Okay. And it's letting us know that our ancestors have been in this region since before the continent split apart, before there was an Atlantic Ocean. All right. So, all right. Somebody's saying they can't hear any audio. The brother Frank Pedron is saying he can't hear any audio. Can somebody, Jason Cole Bay or Jackson Bay, can you give him some instructions? All right, so Once again, it's letting us know that our ancestors have been in the Americas since before the continent split apart. All right, so from our perspective, we're in Northwest Africa right now. You know, South America, Southwest Africa. All right, so we are the descendants of Africans. All right, and we're not disconnecting ourselves from that. All right, the prophet actually returned us to that and let us know why. So when you see, you know, so many so-called African Americans want to connect to Egypt, you know, and you know, it's as an African American, as a Black person, you don't have a connection to Egypt. Why? Because they define who you are, and they let us know that we're all from West Africa, which is just a region. There's several countries in West Africa that don't even speak the same language. Okay, but you know, that's where you're from. Okay, but if you are self-defined and returning to your divine creed, throwing that off which was placed on you, you do have connection to that. Why? Because in that same chapter, the previous chapter 47, Egypt was a worldwide civilization. All right, Egypt was over here as well. Why? Because we were over here as well. And we received permission from the Pharaoh to settle over here. All right, which means that that was one of our rulers. Okay, so as a Moorish American, you have connection to that. And there's no disconnect with Africa. I think the confusion comes in with a lot of people have, you know, we've all been taught that they brought all of us over here on slave boats, every last one of us, you know, and that's not completely true. You know, they brought slaves over. Many Africans were brought over to Brazil. But as someone who's lived in Brazil for 5 years, I've seen and met people who are indigenous to that region, who know they're indigenous to that region, who are dark-skinned, what you would call Black people. All right? So you, even in the area where many of the people from Africa were brought, you still had the indigenous people there who were already there. So they didn't bring us all over here. They didn't have the capacity to do that then or now.
Islam.
Can I,
So because we were the first way of life and we wish to remain a clean and pure nation, we do not want to mix or amalgamate or marry in to the families of the pure skin nations. Do everybody understand that we're not teaching hate?
Islam.
This is just us teaching or having love for ourselves and who we are. Everybody else does it. That is very important for us to do it as well, to preserve our cultures and our way of life. Islam?
Islam, because it's being put off as something like progression is what it's being always, you know, this is progressive, but I feel you. Islam.
So when we go to verse 7, it shows us that it's like we denounce the ways of the European nation because we are returning the church and the Christianity because it's not for us. It was prepared by their forefathers for them. Okay, we see that word prepare again, just like the Prophet Noble Drew Ali was prepared. So we see in the connection, you know, we need to really understand what the Prophet was trying to explain to us. And so Christianity was prepared by their forefathers for them. Islam for their earthly salvation.
Islam. Can I add one more thing to that too? So when it's saying that Christianity was, you know, prepared for the Europeans, by the Europeans, right, by their forefathers for their earthly salvation, even within Christianity, you know, it tells people, it's hidden in there. It tells you that God is within them, and it has keys in there, you know, for upliftment, spiritual upliftment. But that's not necessarily what they taught, right? They prepared it for themselves. They put that original sin thing in there, telling everyone that they're born in sin. There was a time period where a lot of people in Europe were being taught that their loved ones were going to hell and that they could pay, to keep them out of hell, just to keep them tied into the church. And so there were a lot of things that went into that preparation, okay, that has nothing to do with us, and that's why we're returning it back. You have to get out from under that yoke. There's no really other way around it, So, by returning to Islam, we know that we're not born in sin. We're born with the unlimited capacities for progress, for prosperity, and for success. And we also know, as Moorish Muslims, we know that we are the vice regents of Allah on earth, right? So that means that Allah is within us. We are the earthly representatives. Okay?
Islam, that's beautiful.
This is our birthright. So we have to earn our birthright.
And yes, I want to say another thing about the word prepared. The Prophet, I love Prophet Noble Drali, and I love learning about what he brought to our people, because he brilliantly prepared our nation for success through Islam. So he linked us back. He saw that they were prepared with Christianity. So he saw, because he was divinely prepared, he's seen how we needed to be prepared through Islam to be a clean nation.
Islam, and you have to have your own creed, right? One of the things that happened, one of the things like with the different popes, with their decrees or their papal bulls, one of the things they said kind of without saying outright was that when they come across Moors, no matter where in the world, they're going to deem them, savages, right? And it didn't matter what name they put on you, whether it was Indian or Negro, right? It still implied that you were a savage, that you were an infidel, right? Because they kind of flipped that back on the Moors, right? So everywhere they went in the world, our people were deemed savages, uncivilized, right? And they're going to share a little light with us by teaching us their religion, baptizing us, making us Christians, right? But you could never be equal. You could never be, because it wasn't created for that purpose. This was prepared for their earthly salvation. This was prepared by them. And so these are people who name themselves God. Hang on one second. Okay, so these are people who, we know by returning to, to Islamism, we know that they named themselves God, right? That already lets you know who they truly are, what they represent. So you have to get away from that. But in addition to that, okay, by allowing them to civilize you, right, and give you their religion, which is you will never be an equal to. That's why the KKK here will kill their fellow Christians. They don't care, because you weren't created to be equal. And so they created you. You become their creation, all right? And he's your custodian. He's also your God. And he teaches you his religion as you see fit. And that's also why me and the brother Frank were speaking before, and I was letting them know that we definitely do not go along with Hispanic, all right? It doesn't matter, Puerto Rico, Cuba, Dominican Republic, none of it. It doesn't matter, right? What was the indigenous people of Cuba? The Arawak people? The Arawak were all throughout the Caribbean, right?
Islam, Taino,
They weren't calling themselves Hispanic.
Yeah, they're all the same, yeah.
Yeah, and so that we don't need to go by any of those labels, because that means that we're still going by something that was created to disempower us and to imply that us and our ancestors were uncivilized. They didn't have any civilization. They didn't have any creed. They didn't have any language. They have no connection to anything great. And so you have to come out of that and step back into who you are, which means totally stepping outside of that paradigm. The so-called white man made himself God, right? And they didn't want to empower you. So, everybody has to leave those labels behind. I just wanted to share that piece, sister. Go ahead and continue.
A lot of our people believe that, man. A lot of our people believe that, especially the people that I dealt with, they think that Can you get the baby, please? There's different people that believe that we didn't have nothing until we came in contact with the European. And that, you know what I'm saying, it's hard for them to believe like that we had, you know, different things like plumbing, you know what I'm saying? We weren't living in no huts, mud huts, or, you know what I'm saying? Even though that's cool, but we had houses and, you know what I'm saying, different things like that. But a lot of our people believe it. And, you know, I just think the work that we do is going to show, you know, and prove like, no, we were doing a lot more stuff way before, you know what I'm saying, they even came over here. It was some things that people was hitting on, like I was watching a lecture where they were talking about the last names. They were talking about how it wasn't necessarily I think it was a Moorish brother that was saying that they adopted our names. It wasn't
Islam. That's why the prophet said, don't you dare change your name. You keep your name and you add the title to it. Islam.
It brought me back to, but when I was in school, and they were like, but they even told us that when we was in the classroom, like, you know, that's why we have the last name Jones or Johnson, because that was the name of your slave master. It was like, yo, it's totally erroneous. But we still believe that narrative. And it's hurting us. That's what's crazy about it. It's hurting us.
Islam and
I yield the floor.
Islam, and just to add to, just to piggyback off that, yeah, it was no a slave master. We was dealing with slave holders, maybe slave holders, but no, we ain't. Nah, that can't be Islam.
Islam. This is Brother Daniel Jail. May I say a few words?
Islam.
Praise Allah. Camelbacking on all the honors already given. I just want to applaud, you know, the chairman and Sister Douglas Hill for the lesson and for pointing out, you know, this particular chapter in this time. You know, it's particularly relevant, and we actually just dropped a Moorish Guide article on this chapter a couple nights ago. So if you go to the site mstafa.net, you can actually see that article. And so I kind of paraphrase, you know, the relevant portions of it, you know, in light of this discussion. You know, the covenant of the great God Allah, honoring our forefathers and mothers, divine creed and principles, right? So that our days will be long in the earth, or longer in the earthland that Allah has given us. Islam. So as we think about that, you know, we have to think about, what is a covenant, right? A covenant is a binding agreement, right? It comes with terms that if one person or if both persons of the contract or, you know, of that agreement adhere to those terms, then something's going to be given, a benefit is going to be given. Islam. So the covenant here stipulates that if we honor our mothers and our fathers, our days will be longer in the earthland which Allah has given us. Okay? So first thing is we have to make sure that we are honoring our mothers and fathers, but we have to know what that means, right? To honor our mothers and our fathers, we have to look at what they were given. And, you know, appropriately, you pointed out Keys 42. But if you back up a little bit and you look at Key 41, it says, what is the everlasting gospel? It is a saving power that comes from Allah through our ancient fathers by his prophet. Islam. So there's a saving power that was given to our ancient father from Allah. And it comes returned to us, and we're reminded by our prophets. If you go back a little bit further in the questionnaire, it says, what's the duty of a prophet? To save nations from the wrath of Allah. So we can then see that when we don't follow the covenant, when we don't honor our fathers and our mother, the result is that Allah brings a people to subjugate us. And that is the wrath that we incur.
Islam.
The hedge of protection that's put around us when we're in covenant gets released and the hedge is removed. So the saving power that came from Allah are divine creed and principles, national principles. How you're supposed to marry, how you're not supposed to marry. The prophet in that very chapter just told us, don't amalgamate. That's a national principle. That's a political move. The prophet told us to join the temple. That's a political move as well as a divine one. And particularly, it renders earthly as well as divine salvation. Whereas he mentioned that Christianity only renders an earthly salvation, Islam. So it's very important that we understand that. And so as we look a little bit further back in history, Sister Douglas Hill hit it on the head. We measure time in cycles. And so if we're aware of the cycles that have happened already, we can gauge where we're at properly in the current cycle. Islam. So let's look at where we're at right now. Coronavirus is happening, right? In 2020. 400 years ago, slavery began in 1619. Islam. So 2020 is the first year out from your 400 years of bondage. Okay. Now, what cycle does that remind you of? That should remind you of when Moses brought the Israelites out of Egypt. He brought them out of Egypt on the 400th year of their enslavement and bondage. Islam. And on that 400th year, Allah dropped 10 plagues on Egypt in order to demand their release. Islam. The 10th plague was a plague of a death of the firstborn son. Islam. So this is something to think about. They were in Egypt 400 years in slavery, right? And on that 400th year, 9 plagues happened. The 10th brought death of the firstborn son to all households, Egyptian and Israelite. And it came by a sudden, swift illness for those families that did not stay indoors and mark their doorposts with the lamb's blood as a signal for death to pass over. Right? So here we are at the 400th year, just passed, and right in December, now this plague is released. Islam. So now we see the cycle. Now we have to begin to ask ourselves, are we in line with the covenant? Now, if you remember, Moses, after he brought them out of Egypt, he was given the 10 Commandments because he had to return them to a law of their forefathers that they had forgotten during 400 years of slavery. Islam. So Prophet Noble Drew Ali, he returned us to Islam, 1913. Gave us plenty of advance notice that when that 400 years come up, we need to be able to step in line with the cycle. Okay. So the clear evidence as to whether we are in line with the covenant is whether we're getting the blessings. Are we protected? Are we prospering? If we're not prospering, if we're not protected, if we're subject to misuse and abuse, we need to look at our adherence to the covenant. Islam. Prophet Noble Drew Ali gave us divine constitution and bylaw, set up national principles for our allegiance, for our adherence, for divine and national salvation, earthly and divine salvation. Islam. So now we're looking at this everlasting gospel, and we know that we have to adhere to the divine and national principles of our forefathers. That is what honoring them means, because they were given it directly from Allah. Key 41 says, the gospel is a saving power that came from Allah through our ancient father by his prophet. And so these prophets come from time to time to remind us, hey, get in line with this covenant. And so I just wanted to point that out and just give honors to the chairman and Sister Douglas Hill for really hitting on things that are relevant and aligning us with the cycle of the time. Islam.
Islamism.
That was
Islam. Appreciate you for that. Islam.
Well, I gotta prepare for for our Holy Day meeting here. We getting started at 8:45. So I'm gonna sign out and say peace and love to all the Muslims. This particular mission is near and dear to my heart, being that I'm from Columbus, Ohio. So you know, I'm looking forward to this mission being extremely successful, as it's already showing signs of being. So, honest to the Moors, may you all be blessed, and may Allah provide for you for means from which you can never perceive.
Islam, before you go, can you tell the brother on here, Frank, who he needs to contact? He's down there in South Florida.
Oh, Islam.
Yeah, Islam, brother. I'm here. Yeah.
Where you located?
I'm in Hollywood, Florida.
In Hollywood. Okay. Give me my number.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
So I'll get it. So I'll just.
Instagram.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Peace and love.
All right. Peace and love.
Peace, brother.
Peace and blessings.
Islam, be safe.
Islam.
Islamism. That was some heavy knowledge dropping right there, and it all makes sense when we look at it in that perception of time. I'm so glad he was on the line during this chapter, because I mean, we are our ancestors. You know, time never was when man was not. We keep coming back, and when we learn to recognize the signs and the symbols and what time it really is, as these cycles are rolling by, just like Noble Drew Ali did, he picked up on it, he paid attention to it, and he used his knowledge to do the great things he did. And we can't be sheep. We can't just, you know, honor the prophet, worship the prophet, and stay in this place that he created. We have to pick up the pieces and keep moving forward. We have to keep creating to make it bigger and better, you know, with every generation. Islam. I'm just gonna go and finish the last couple of verses. He pretty much expressed verse 9 and 8 and 9. So I'm going to pick up on verse 10, where it says, this message is for all Asiatics of America, because we are the ones that was stripped from our nationality and birthrights. And not only America, North America, but this is South and Central America and the Caribbean islands, because all this was America before it got chopped up and reclassified and relabeled to the names that we know of today. Islam.
Islamism.
And this right here will bring us peace and help us to love instead of hate. Because when we know the truth, we can love ourselves so much that we don't have to even focus on hating anybody else. Allah is going to take care of everything else if we just do what we're supposed to do, as we can see today. Verse 11, as we come back into the folds of families and nations, we will uplift ourselves and our communities. We are free and limitless. And this is why Noble Drew Ali is our prophet. And I don't care how crazy it sounds to people who are not in the know. They don't understand the state that they are in, because, you know, they've been pumped and brainwashed and whitewashed and white supremacy. They love the white Jesus so much that they will not accept anybody that comes looking like them and speaking their language. And that's something that we have to work on as a people, because that right there lets us know that we don't love ourselves enough to accept a prophet that looks like us. a prophet that looks like us and speak our language. We rather accept a prophet, you know, that represents Europe or the standard of beauty for Europe. And that is not the way you honor your forefathers. Our ancestors, you know, you just, I mean, you can imagine how they will feel if they see our people and how we act in the churches and in, you know, following, you know, putting the white Jesus on the wall, you know. That's mental illness. That's self-hatred. And we just got to take these teachings and start loving ourselves and being more. And we will definitely be able to reap the benefits of the teachings of Noble Drew Ali Islam. With that, I yield the floor.
Islam.
Islam. Islam.
Islam.
Islam. Does anybody have any more questions about chapter 48?
Islam. I just wanted to add something way out. I just wanted to add because the way that the prophet set us up and what kind of Africans we are, being Moorish Americans. You know, the Moorish Americans are descendants of the ancient Moabites who inhabited the northwestern and southwestern shores of Africa. And the Moabites come from the land of Canaan. And that one slide that you got, Brother Douglas L., when it shows like the North Carolina, I forgot what you had showed us, but it shows the difference between which Negroes, like the slave Negro, and it doesn't apply to Egyptians, Moors, and Asiatic Negroes, such as the whatever that is. And that's where the prophet put us up. So he put us basically to the clean and pure nations of Africa, you know, being the Moabites, coming from the land of Canaan, Islam. That's all I want to say.
Islam. So yeah, just to add to what Brother Jackson Bay shared, just by stepping into your divine heritage, your divine creed and nationality as a Moorish American, you're moving automatically out of the label that was created, you know, just for our abuse. Okay, the Negro Act, 1740, and then there were several others. They just basically removed this thing that they created as a Negro as just a permanent slave. And then today in the Federal Directive 15, okay, which we showed on here several times. You see it's in this SF 181 form, which is just the government form showing the different race classifications, but it's actually a part of Federal Directive 15, which is the standards for classification of federal data on race and ethnicity across the board. All right, so this is how they classify our people across the board. All right, regardless of what government, excuse me, sorry, just got distracted, but regardless of what office and government you're talking about, they're using these classifications. All right, and they can't come out right like they could in the 1800s and just let you know that black means an enslaved African. So they just removed it from the family of humans, right? Which is why I was showing the book, The Negro or Beast or in the Image of God earlier, because it's still implying that, you know, that this thing that's not connected to the human family. And the prophet returned us to that, you know, and also with Hispanic, I mean, Hispanic's not really considered a race on here. You can be Hispanic and then be black, white, Asian, whatever. But it just says a person of Mexican, Puerto Rican, Cuban, Central or South American, or other Spanish culture, regardless of race, right? So it's still something outside of who we are as a people, all right? And, you know, this is done across the board. So this is a part of it. You have to step outside of that. You have to throw that away. One of the things we did want to just touch on the census strategy, which I'll do, you know, real quickly later. But just going back to chapter 48, if anyone has any questions or any statements, anything they want to add, go ahead. If not, we're going to open the floor to questions. All right. Islam. So, yeah, if anyone has any questions, you know, regardless of what it is, feel free to ask. We're just going to go ahead and open the floor up. All right. Okay, so real quickly, I am going to go over the census strategy, and this is just advice that we have, you know, for the from the Moorish Science Temple of America for all of our people on how to identify yourself on the census. It's something that just really quickly I recommend everyone does, because even if you don't participate in it, your chances are you're going to be counted. And if people who work for the census are able to, not saying they're bad guys, these are just regular people, but if they're able to determine, you know, from looking at you, your race or ethnicity, they're just going to put what they think it is. So we advise everyone to participate and self-identify. And by doing so, you're stating, basically identifying yourself is something, they don't have these categories on there, but the wording that we're telling you to put in there, these are actually in the hierarchical race codes within the federal directive. So for example, I'm gonna zoom in on this. The first thing which we have just advise everyone to do is to go down to the bottom, you know, go past white, black, American Indian, all that, Asian, go down to the bottom and click some other race and write Asiatic Moorish. By doing that, that ties you in to your Moorish heritage on both sides of the Atlantic, all right? And it's understood what that means. This ties you back into the creators of civilization. It's already understood. American Indian, the same with this. When you click on American Indian and write in more, they have that in there in the codes as different Moorish tribes within the Americas. Okay, so it's already understood. And so for many of us who have that, you know, oral history, I advise you to do both of those. Okay, but we advise everyone to do that. If anyone has never seen this stuff before, you definitely don't want to put black. All right, if anyone can see this, hopefully everyone can see this. Black is the only racial group on here that is not connected to an original people from somewhere. Black is a person having origins in any of black racial groups of Africa. Everyone else comes from an original people of somewhere, right? And there's some people who are Moors who are telling people to put white, and that we're not playing the color game anymore. This whole white thing's about to change too, because people, for white it says original peoples of Europe, Middle East, and North Africa. There's a lot of people of Middle Eastern and North African descent who, like, I think they call their group MENA, M-E-N-A. They're about to have their own category, right? Which will just say they're from the original people of the Middle East and North Africa. So even that's about to change. So that's not an option. We have to create ours, self-identify, right? And so that's why we advise everyone to not click black, click other, write Asiatic Moorish. You can also click American Indian and write in more, and that's already understood. From an organizational perspective, they know what that means. Okay, so they have this race code R101052004 when you write in more under Native American. Okay, this all of it.
Join the meeting.
Did somebody say they have a question? Okay, so the reason though I was showing this whole thing showing that black is the only thing on here that's not tied to an original people is because this all lines up with the things that have been going on for the last almost 300 years, where they're defining black as something that's not truly human, doesn't deserve human rights, is here to be abused. I'm not here begging for people to feel sorry for us or anything. We're not identifying with that. That's not who you are. All right. And for the person who asked how do they find that page, everyone who sent their email, we can send you these slides so you can look over this on your own and print it out and share it with people, you know. The brother Jackson Bay was just speaking on this Negro Act of South Carolina, the Negro Law, which is just one of several, which just defines the Negro is something that's confined to slave Africans. But even within the wording in there, it says that it does not embrace the free inhabitants of Africa, such as the Egyptians, Moors, or the Negro Asiatics, such as the Lascars, right? Because they knew that those were civilized people, all right? Why? Because these are the people who civilized them. That's what I wanted to share earlier when the brother Cremus Jackson Jones Bay was talking. By being a Moor, this ties you back into the creators of civilization, the people who civilized the Europeans, and it's just known. All right. So this is, by returning to this, they can't say that you're less than human. They can't even front. 2020 census, probably the website for the census is probably 2020census.gov. I don't think it's .com. The slides you're looking at, these came from the Supreme Grand Sheikh that was just talking from the Moorish Science Temple of America. So if you wanted these slides and you send us your email, we'll send that to you. Okay, but now if you see on here, I mean, it says United States Census. It's because we're an official census partner. We're not just doing these things and advising people to do it and hoping it works. We've actually talked with the leadership, like the directors from the census, and explained who we are, what we're doing, the history of it, and they understood and they agreed with it. Matter of fact, there's going to be a video on the Moors in America channel where we're going to be going over these, and we're going to have somebody who's one of the directors for the census. It's going to be very interesting. I advise everyone to watch that, but just letting you know, like, we're partnered with them because they understand what we're doing. They know. All right. There was even a woman who was an Asiatic woman who's worked for the census, and she was listening to this and she understood it, and she wanted to join the temple and do this as well, you know, because it makes sense. All right. So, yeah, I advise everyone to do this. That's really it, unless anyone has any questions about the census. Nope. All right, cool. So, yeah, I think we covered everything. I just, once again, just open the floor. Anyone wants to share anything or have any questions, feel free to ask. Otherwise, we're going to go into the closing of the meeting.
Yeah, I have a quick question. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. So I wanted to know, where do the Yorubas stand at in everything? What is their position?
Okay. So when you're talking about the Yorubas, you're talking about Nigeria, and that's West Africa. And in recent history, and when I say recent history, talking about, like, you know, from the 1700s on up, the people in that region would have been considered Moors. All right. So those are our people as well. And that's not just me making it up. All the way from Mali, present day, Nigeria, Benin, all of these places were Moorish kingdoms. All right. Even practicing Islam. All right. So these people were Moors as well.
Okay.
Right? The difference would be someone who's actually, like, right now from Nigeria, they already have a nationality, you know? They're not in the same situation as us here in the Americas, being disconnected from it, you know? Like, if someone in Nigeria chooses to be a Christian, or, you know, they're choosing that, it's not, you know, something that they were necessarily just born into, because they're disconnected from anything else. all right? They didn't start as slavery. What I'm trying to say. They started us as slavery. We're reconnecting right now. But yeah, most of the people in Nigeria were Moors as well.
Yeah, okay, because that's why I was looking for, because a friend was dropping some knowledge on that, and he's bringing in some spirituality and things of that nature. So I wanted to know what where they stand. But so she was mentioning about worshiping other gods, and it's been like a goal of mine to kind of like understand astrology more. So I wanted to know, like, if that was an ancient science, part of more science, was it still called astrology, or did they not incorporate the names that we know by now, as far as with the planets and the signs and the celestial, the constellations and things like that? Like, how was it for the Moors back then and stuff? Or where does astrology stand?
Islam.
Huh?
Man, well,
Mhm.
all right. Okay. First off, with us being more scientists, we were looking at things from a scientific perspective, not just like from a dogmatic perspective. If you're looking at our ancestors, that created pyramids all over the world, like obviously, they understood astrology. They're studying the stars. They mapped out the stars. They built temples, that were, in the formation of the stars. So, and then you had several different, schools, you know what I'm saying? Like, depending on what part of the world you're at, right? But the understanding was clear. I mean, that they were practicing and understanding these things. So, it's not something that we would see as like sacrilegious or something to be, to be studying and researching and practicing, just studying these sciences. It's not something that we're going to be like scared of or something like that. Is that what you were asking? Because I'm just saying it's not like something that we'd be turned off from. Because I know like some, people like, religions, they're like, oh, you can't do that. Or, they like really, I guess you could say superstitious with everything. But we don't approach things like that. We're looking at it from a scientific perspective.
Well, like, yeah, that's why I was just saying, because like it's been a minute since I looked over it information, but it was saying something about the planets or the signs or the constellations were named after like Greek gods, things like that. Like, I don't know if it was Mars or Venus that was somewhat connected to Zeus, things like that. But just as far as the aspect of how with some people, I guess they worship, maybe so to speak, astrology in the sense where they worship like the planets and the signs and everything like that. And I think they connected to like gods and stuff. So I was really curious on whether or not, if that was something that was, I guess, like good or tolerated.
Could I comment on that?
Islam.
Yeah, I was about to say something too. Go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Say it again.
I said I might be asking the question wrong.
Oh no, well, I was gonna I was gonna comment just to kind of add some clarity on that. You have to definitely be kind of like cautious on who's giving you this information sometimes, because a lot of times what people will do, they will take the like how they would say Greek mythology. Like Greek mythology, you know what I'm saying, to a lot of people, I mean Greek mythology is known, you see what I'm saying, amongst the vast majority of the people. So a lot of people who you know what I'm saying, compare and contrast other practices or understandings or different schools of thought, you see what I'm saying, that might be like, you know what I'm saying, similar to that, they will automatically attribute like, you know what I'm saying, Greek mythology as being the father of everything else. You see what I'm saying? Everything else like falls up under that umbrella, when that's not really the case. there's a book actually that you can get by I think George G. James, Stolen Legacy. You could definitely check that out, because see, the whole like Greek mythology or whatever comes from, you know what I'm saying, like different Kemetic spiritual systems, and actually up until the 4th or 5th century, before the dynasty actually fell, because you know what I'm saying, like, not Egypt as we know it today, but you know what I'm saying, like the Cometians during that time, or otherwise, or also known as, you know what I'm saying, like the like the Moors who inhabited that area, you know what I'm saying, that was the hub, you know what I'm saying, that was like kind of like the battery that, you know what I'm saying, all people, you know what I'm saying, from different nations and stuff like that traveled to learn these different mysteries and stuff like that, to learn about astrology, astronomy, you know what I'm saying, to learn about the different degrees of understanding spirituality, expressing that, and also internalizing that for the betterment of the individual. So actually another person who you could actually look up, there's another guy named Gerald Massey. He has a book. I bought. He has a book called Natural Genesis, actually 1 and 2, volumes 1 and 2. He actually breaks all of that stuff down extensively to show. He's actually one of the Europeans during the 19th century who was actually like really keeping it real, like, you know what I'm saying, and letting people know that, you know what I'm saying, the African people, you know what I'm saying, were the ones who were like the fathers of all of these different, you know what I'm saying, religions that we know that are familiar with us today. You know what I'm saying? So it's not, but also to answer your other side of your question, it's not bad to study that stuff, because there's astrology all throughout, you know what I'm saying, like the Circle 7, if you really kind of like know what you're looking at. It's to be used as a tool and not to worship. The Greeks took some of the things that our ancestors had, distorted it, and they started worshiping these things and these different idols, like, you see what I'm saying? And then they kind of like gave it back to us, and taught us in a way that they understood, and we adopted that as our own, not really like tracing our roots and stuff like that back to the source. You know what I'm saying? So that's it.
Islam.
Islam. I just want to add to the brother's question. Like, yeah, it's something called natal charts and birth charts, and like that right there, everybody has a unique birth chart and natal chart, and to understand like like what brother Dre Lloyd just said, use it as a tool. Don't use it. Don't worship these things, because these is all manifestations and thoughts of Allah, just like yourself. You feel me? So like all these things is gonna do is to help us, to help humanity around us. Cause I do astrology and tarot cards, all that mystic stuff. But Drew Ali, he unveiled all this stuff. You know what I mean? So it's no spookism, and then he unified it under Islam. So all this stuff is like, all of the universe was created by Allah, and all these things is to first just basically to understand it, not to be spookism and be like, oh no, we don't deal with that and and you gotta understand like that, like the 7 Elohim, you feel me? The planets, the chakras, they all connected. The whole thing is just you understand this to understand yourself, you feel me? And nothing is outside of yourself. So Islam. Go ahead.
Islam. Thank you both for sharing that, and just in alignment with that, this is real simple. Know thyself and Allah, right? Sounds real simple, but it's just letting us know, setting the mindset. That's why it's in the front of the Quran, to understand and know that Allah is within you, right? And if you had that understanding, we're not really looking for anything else to worship, and it's not disrespecting anyone that's, that's the approach they need to take, but like, we're not worshiping the planets. We might even see the greater, we might even see that the planets are actually representing our own chakras within us, or the, people who worship the Orishas. We see the Orishas as a representation of the chakras within us. We're looking at it like that. We're not looking, for something else to worship. But at the same time, we're not here to antagonize people or, try to like tell people they're doing anything wrong. That's just not the approach we're taking to it, because we know that it lies within us, right? So that, if that makes sense, that would really, be the answer, to what you were saying. All right. And see, okay, I guess they left. But does anybody else?
No, I'm here. I'm here.
Also, where are you located?
Right now I'm in Dallas, Georgia, but I'm just visiting. I'm going back to Valdosta, Georgia tomorrow. So I'm
Okay.
there.
Yeah, I got you. So yeah, you were on the call last time. Okay, cool. So yeah, does anybody else have any questions, or if you have any more questions, feel free to speak up.
Well, I still got. I just need to be in connection with a sheik. That way, I can you know what I'm saying, we can talk and see about you know, gaining more knowledge and becoming part of the temple, you know, and actually doing my part, things like that.
Islamism.
Yeah.
Call that number that I emailed you. It was for Atlanta, but you know, as far as I know, that would be the closest thing to you. But you could call and build with them and find out, you know, how to move from here on out.
Okay. Will do. What was the number, if you could remind me?
It's in the email. So just go back to that email and I put the number in there, and you can respond back too, because I think they already responded to you. All right. So Islam.
Islam, brother, you say you from you say you Valdosta, Georgia. You say your hometown Valdosta, Georgia.
Valdosta, Georgia.
Islam,
yes,
brother
Islam.
Lloyd, you might want to connect him to Florida. Like, I think you might be closer to like North Florida, aren't you?
Oh yeah, I'm definitely closer to North Florida.
Okay,
yeah,
so
like Tampa and Tallahassee, not that far.
Okay, so I'll connect you then with the temple in Florida. Well, the temples in Florida.
Yeah, that'd be better.
Okay, cool. All right, perfect. Does anybody else have anything they wanted to add, or any questions?
Good.
All right. Okay, cool. All right, I want to announce without further ado, we're going to go into the closing of the meeting. Brother Jackson Bay, can you read the additional bylaws?
Islam. Additional laws for the Moorish Americans by the Prophet Noble Jew Ali. Act 1. Grand sheiks and governors and heads of all temples, all businesses, each said temple must be approved by the Prophet Noble Jew Ali before acting upon by any member, let it be finance, property, or any line of life that will cause the member to sacrifice finance, etc., that will cause the support of any group of members. Any former officer that violates these laws is subject to be removed from his office under heavy restrictions, etc., by the Prophet or the Grand Sheikh. Act 2. All members are to attend their adab meetings and their public meetings promptly. If a member is found standing around on their meeting period, shall be fined 50 cents on the first case, and on the second will be fined $1, which will go on your emergency fund. If a member is working, his monthly dues must be paid, and if he has money in the bank, he must subscribe for as much as he is able to the Moorish Uplifting Fund, because it takes finance to uplift the nation. Act 3. It is the lawful and divine duty of every good member, if he is able to finance, to aid me in saving the nation. If he does not, he is an enemy to the cause of uplifting his own people, and justice must catch you. Let it be he or she according to love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, as I have the power invested in my hands, and I have to enforce the law in order to save the nation. Act 4. All members, while up making public speeches, must not use any assertion against the American flag or speak radically against the church or any member of any organized group, because we are to teach love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Act 5. All members must promptly attend their meetings and send their children to Sunday school, and the teacher must confirm himself to the questionnaire, and let every member exercise his 5 senses who is able to do so, because out of your Sunday school comes the guidance of the nation. Act 6. With us, all members must proclaim their nationality, and we are teaching our people their nationality and their divine creed, that they may know that they are part and parcel of this said government, and know that they are not Negroes, colored folks, black people, or Ethiopians, because these names were given to slaves by slaveholders in 1779 and lasted until 1865 during the time of slavery. But this is a new era of time now, and all men now must proclaim their free national name to be recognized by the government in which they live and the nations of the earth. This is the reason why Allah, the great God of the universe, ordained Noble Jew Ali, the prophet, to redeem his people from their sinful ways. The Moorish Americans are the descendants of the ancient Moabites who inhabited the northwestern and southwestern shores of Africa. Act 7. All members must promptly attend their meetings and become part and parcel of all uplifting acts of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Members must pay their dues and keep in line with all necessities of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Then you are entitled to the name of faithful. Husband, you must support your wife and children. Wife, you must obey your husband and take care of your children and look after the duties of your household. Sons and daughters must obey father and mother and be industrious and become part of the uplifting of fallen humanity. All Moorish Americans must keep their hearts and minds pure with love and their bodies clean with water. This is a divine covenant. This divine covenant is from your holy prophet, Noble Jew Ali, through the guidance of his father God Allah. Islam, Islam, Islamism.
Islamism. All right, thank you, brother. Brother Kobe, can you read the writs of the prophet?
Islam. To be proclaimed at every meeting. Islam. I am glad to know I have a few faithful Moors among you all, and I desire for them to know the truth and the divine truth. There is a host of jealousy about me and the movement now by the same people of our side of the nation that claim that I was a joke and unreal. But now, since they have found out from the government officials and the nations of the earth that this is the only sole foundation for all Asiatics must depend upon for their earthly salvation as American citizens, they are working every scheme that they can to disqualify me and take charge of the situation. I have notified all these things to you long ago in the past. That is through the faithful Moors that attribute to the movement and uplifting funds. The ones that pay their divine respects to me and the movement will be remembered. That is why I'm calling upon all faithful Moors to increase their faithfulness to me, your prophet, and your divine Moorish movement. I need finances, and I need it badly. Never before have I needed finances so badly as I do at present, so I can shove aside the discord that is facing the nation. It all comes through jealousy because of my fame and nobility. The nation of the world would not recognize the movement without I, the prophet, being head. It has been proven by my works, which I have performed in the past few years. Prophet, Noble Jew Ali. Prophet warns all Muslims to be read at every meeting. I hereby inform all members that they must end all radical speeches while at work and in their homes and on the streets. We are for peace and not destruction. Stop flashing your cards at Europeans. It causes confusion. Remember, your card is for your salvation. Failure to obey these orders will be a severe consequence. We are for love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. And when these principles are violated, justice must then take its course. Any member or members who hold malicious feelings towards the temple or the prophet or violate the divine covenant of the Moorish movement will receive their rewards from Allah for their unjust deeds. All true Moors, will and must obey the law as laid down to them by their prophet. If they lose confidence in their prophet, they should turn in their card and button, cease wearing their turban and fez, and return into the state where I, the prophet, found you. This is a holy and divine movement founded by Prophet Noble Jew Ali, and the prophet is not right, the temple is not right. The prophet, therefore, is sending out the divine plea to all Moorish Americans that they do their part in protecting their prophet and the temple. This is an everlasting movement founded by the prophet through the will of Allah to redeem his people from their sinful ways. Peace. Noble Jew Ali. to the members of the Moorish Science Temple of America, Islam. This is the instructions from your prophet, Noble Drew Ali. Be faithful up unto your forefather divine and your national creed, that you will be blessed for your good deeds that you sow in the flesh. Allah is the one that judges the world, and his judgment is on now. But the weak can comprehend it not. At the end of time is drawing near. So there's Allah to his divine prophet, I, Noble Drew Ali. And that is why many hearts have turned into stone. Many have eyes to see but cannot see, ears to hear but cannot hear. At least they will be confined of their sins. These are the trying hours now, dear Moors, and every evil spirit is moving. And they are trying every weak mind to overthrow and drag out the true foundation, foundation that has been laid, and to cause confusion in the minds of the ones that do believe. But if you have the true love of Allah and your forefathers, you fear not what you hear or see, but will sacrifice the utmost of your very life to protect your movement.
I think I like a law firm that might take my case.
Which? Watch your enemies, dear Moors. Your enemies are the ones that speak against your prophet and ridicule him to the very lowest, and the ones that speak against your divine and national principles of your temple. Act accordingly, and Allah will bless you for your good work. Peace. Your divine prophet, Noble Drew Ali. Islam, Islam, Islamism.
Islamism. All right. Thank you, brother. All right. Peace. Did somebody have something to say? I couldn't understand.
No, I just said Islamism.
Islamism. All right. Okay. I just wanted to also share this Cash App link. If anyone is able to send a donation, it's just the $ and then Moors in America. All right. So yeah, if you are able to send a donation, feel free to send it to that Cash App, the $ and Moors in America. And then also, I just wanted to put this out there for anyone who wants to join. If you want to join the Moorish Science Temple of America and proclaim your nationality, just let us know. We'll get you registration so that you could go ahead and get things started. All right. So if anyone's interested, just let us know. You can also send us an email at mission30@mstofa.net. That's the word mission, number 30 at mstofa.net. All right. So now that that's been said, I just want to go into the closing. All meetings are to be open and closed promptly according to the Circle 7 in love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Please rise and face the east for the closing prayer. Feet at a 45-degree angle. Hold 2 fingers up on the right, 5 on the left. You do not need to repeat after me. Allah. Allah. Bind our hearts and minds back to our ancient forefathers, divine creed and principles. We ask this in thy holy, we ask this in thy holy name in the 7 Elohim. Amen.
Amen.
All right. Peace and love. Thank you, everybody. Happy Holy Day.
Islam, happy holy day.
Happy Holy Day.
God stay safe. Happy holy day.
Happy holy day. Peace.
Happy Holy Day.
Happy holidays. Islam, love, Moors. Be safe.
Happy Holy Day.